about that, the teachings of Jesus that really helped me out was forgiveness. And it wasn't about forgiveness of other people, it was forgiveness for yourself. To be able to forgive yourselves for what you did in your past. Because your past isn't what defines you, it's what you do that defines you.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Recovery Couch, where real stories lead to real healing. Today's guest is John Young. John grew up in a part of Maine riddled with drugs and crime. He began using drugs, robbing drug dealers, and making other choices that led him to prison. Even after his first release, addiction pulled him right back behind bars. While incarcerated, John's mom sent him a guitar, and in a place filled with so much darkness, music became his outlet. When he was released this time, John knew something had to change, so he cleaned up his life. He got a job, and he began using music as a part of his recovery. Today, John is sober. He's creating and he's finishing his upcoming book called Red in the Dark, which is a powerful story of redemption and rebuilding from the inside out. This episode of the Recovery Couch is brought to you by Greg Swartz at Remax Victory and Affiliates. Greg brings heart, hustle, and honesty to every deal. Call Greg at 937-477-8975 today and tell him the Recovery Couch sent you. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Recovery Couch. This is a place where we deliver unapologetic, real, faith-based stories and messages covered by the blood of Jesus. This is a space where we speak from the heart without filters, because Psalm 139 verse 4 reminds us that God knows our words before we ever speak them. And Romans 5:8 tells us that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. It's why the Recovery Couch exists, to meet people exactly where they are. Because here, we believe when you offer someone a space to be real, you're also offering them a space to heal. I'm super excited about today's guest. We welcome to the show a man who grew up in a neighborhood that exposed him to drugs and crime at a very young age. Issues in his home life ended up giving John a reason to explore drug use. Oxycontin, heroin. These were introduced to John in his teenage years, leading him to prison by the age of 20. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show my friend, John Young. John, how you doing today, brother?
A lot better than I was 16 years ago.
Amen, man. So tell us about it, dude. What was it like growing up in Maine and the neighborhood you grew up in and what you were exposed to?
So growing up in Maine, you know, obviously it's a beautiful place. But where I grew up, it was a little different. Munjoy Hill and Kennedy Park in the 80s and the 90s was notorious for drugs, violence, basically a lot of stuff that bikers everywhere. You were either a fisherman, a drug dealer, or a tradesman, or all of them. So hang on a second, please. Sorry, one of the guys. So growing up, we're basically taught you'd have to become one of these things, right? And that was your measure of success. My father himself, he was a drug dealer. He was also a painter, made plenty of money. And his philosophy was basically, as long as the kids are eating and they have everything they need, I'm a good dad. Minus he was beating the hell out of my mother and us kids all the time. He was also heavily addicted to cocaine. So growing up in that neighborhood, it was common for the kids to kind of, steal drugs, use them. We'd run around the neighborhood just popping tires, stealing stuff out of cars, throwing rocks at people. I mean, even the police didn't really come up there a lot in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. Again, it's gentrified now. You'd never know it used to be like that. I mean, people hear the stories. So over the years for that, I started experimenting smoking pot real early. I was about 12 or 13. I'd steal the weed and stuff from my dad. And that kind of led into more stuff. Eventually heroin use right around 17. My brother, he had stolen a bunch of Oxycontins from some friend's grandmother. And this is when they were just giving around Oxycontin like it was candy to literally everybody. And that led into the heroin use. He became a a drug dealer himself. And me, I did pretty much everything and anything. I'd rob people, rob other drug dealers. And I was always trying to justify my actions. Like, I'm robbing a drug dealer, so it's not a big deal. Come
Like
on.
you're some vigilante, like Batman or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, it was stupid. Like, I look back on this and I'd make up dumb reasons like why I'm robbing this guy. Like, who cares? you know? Um, and then 20 years old, I finally get whacked. And I go to prison for the first time. And I was pissed. I mean, I came up with every freaking reason why it was everybody else's fault and not mine. Right? It was bullshit.
And what'd you go to prison for, John?
So I had aggravated possession, burglary. Originally it was I forget what the name of it is. There was somebody at the house. I was trying to rob another drug dealer. Didn't work out for me. I ended up doing 2.5, 3 years there, but I got out, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do the right thing, you know, and that lasted like a week. I went right back into drug use immediately. I started again at picking up heroin, robbing people and stuff. The only grounding force I had while I was in the prison was my mother. Um, and she was basically the one always trying to take care of me. That's also where I first started playing guitar.
In prison?
Yeah. Yep. Very first. I've always sung, but my mother bought me a guitar, sent it to me in the prison because I needed something to do. Um, so after being in the prison, got out, started everything all over again because obviously it wasn't my fault. It was just circumstance. This is just the way I was raised. It's everyone else's goddamn fault. And boom, it happened all over again. The last time it happened though, it was pretty bad. It was a knock at my door and a guy who showed up at the door I didn't trust at all. And he was with somebody else. And they had asked if they could come in and use the house. And he told me the guy did dope. So I was like, okay. Uh, and they sat down and I was like, yeah, you do dope. Okay. And you're not a fucking cop, you know? And he shoots him up and the guy dies right on my couch. Boom. Turns blue. I freak out. I'm panicking. I'm trying to flush literally every fucking thing I can because I had 20 grams of heroin, but that didn't happen. The police ended up showing up. I got charged again, but this time with trafficking and even manslaughter. Um, that all was dropped, though. The guy at least came clean and said that I didn't shoot the guy up or nothing. And then for some fucking miracle, I didn't get 20 years in prison. I just got 2 more years. And I think about that a lot. I'm like, what kind of bullet? How many times am I going to dodge shit like this? Cause and I think I talked about this a little bit, but that second time in the prison when I was sitting there alone at night, and these cells are cold, man. You'd have to bust out the fucking toilets because they'd freeze over. It's behind the wall. I mean, if I could send you pictures of this fucking place, um, I'm just sitting there at night and I'm just thinking, what are you going to do? Are you fucking 60 years old shooting heroin up? But life fucking sentence, maybe get stabbed in the neck by somebody. And then I start thinking about how I keep getting at these circumstances. And then I'm like, wait a second. The only variable in this is me, right? I can sit there and blame it on my shitty upbringing. I could blame it on my drug addiction. When the reality is I'm the person who keep putting myself in these fucking situations over and over and over again. Instead of just doing what's hard for me and doing something different, I just wanted to carry on the same exact thing. It's like insanity. And so I sat and I made a decision that I'm going to actually change my life by not doing the same, actually, literally not doing the same shit. I got out. I went and I got a job. First thing I did to make sure that I would never is once I got out, I got my old cell phone. I called up every single number in my phone that was related to drugs. And I said, hey, I just spent the last such and such in prison. Yeah, yep, FBI and all, man. So I made every freaking phone call to anybody anywhere that could have drugs. And I made them so worried about me that they would, I had to. It's how I quit smoking. I quit smoking cigarettes the same way. I just bought a pack and gave them to the first person I saw. Because if you're going to do it, you got to commit.
That's just, there is something about all of this, where you do have to make a choice and you have to say no matter what.
Yeah. It sucks because what I realized when I was sitting in, it's gonna suck because it's not familiar.
It's not comfortable. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's and my brother, who ended up passing 7 years ago, he died from a drug overdose.
Sorry.
Thank you. He was a good man, very troubled, but good man. He'd tell you that the drug addiction wasn't just a part of it. It was the power. My brother would walk around with $100,000 in his pocket, wads of cash. Everybody would know him. I mean, everybody knew me. It wasn't. So when I go out and I'm starting to work as some fucking dock worker for peanuts, like, you're making me drag a fish tote? Like, I had to be humble. I literally had to take everything I thought I was and throw it away because that was what was destroying me. I had to reinvent myself. I had to get rid of that pride and rebuild. And that was the hardest thing. And I still battle that. So I rose up fast. Turned out.
Hold on. Don't jump straight to that. There's a lot there. So you come out of prison, and you get a job, and then you use the illustration of your brother passing away, where you started to realize, pride and ego were part of this equation, were a variable in this equation. But what were you doing on a daily basis? Because it seems like when you jump from I got out of prison, got a job, to where you were going in the story right there, you're missing a huge gap of like the daily struggle of recovery. What was that part like? What was that part like when you're working in the same neighborhood that you grew up in? There's drugs over here, there's crimes over here. I know you made those the phone calls to the people, but on a daily basis, walk us through that on a daily basis, what it was like.
It was absolute hell. It was absolute hell. I mean, it was a test every minute of every fucking day. People would still come knocking on my door. I'm like, what are you doing? Get away from me. You know how hard that is? Yeah, of course you do. Like, or somebody on the street be like, hey, yo, I get your fingers half off. It's like, I don't want fingers. And the hardest part was not being violent because because that's what my father taught me was violence towards things that, but it was no, move along. We're done.
So you were killing that pride that you were talking about.
I had to. I had to. The anger was a root. There's a lot of rage. So I had to try to plug a lot of that stuff up. And again, the ego is huge. The ego thing was massive, and pride and ego was massive through this whole thing. It'd be sometimes I'm like wondering how I'm going to get gas for my car. Like, what? When I had $100 bills just falling out of my couch that I forgot I put there, or the worst was the dreams. I'd be laying in bed dreaming, and I would be trying to stick a needle in my arm, but it could never get in. Just trying to get high. And then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and all I want to do is make a phone call and go get high. So I had to think of ways to get out of that. One of the biggest ways was my mother. I'd talk to my mother a lot. She struggled with addiction to every day of her life. She got clean for a long time and then she'd relapse. She was raised really bad. She was a beautiful woman, one of the kindest women. If you anybody listening to this, if you look up Donna Marie Valeriani in Maine, you'll see this woman, even with her feet all messed up, she was still delivering food to all the people in the neighborhood who couldn't go out and get food on their own. She did this all the time. She was one of the kindest souls ever, but she was very Scott. She would literally give the skin off her back for somebody who needed it. I mean, she'd smack you in the head with a wooden spoon if you needed it too, but you know, my mother was a huge help. She'd listen to me. She'd talk to me.
What did those
Uh,
conversations look like?
a lot of times it was lecturing me, not in a negative way, but because she always wanted me to go to church. Church didn't work out well for me when I was a kid. My mother, who was a Roman Catholic, um, who never went to Catholic churches, she would go to any non-denominational Christian church you can find, because to her it was about Jesus. So occasionally I go to church with her. But that reminds me of that story. I would literally argue with priests, reverends, or Jehovah's Witness. It didn't matter about what is, what isn't, blah, 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 semantic stuff. And I do it constantly. And my mother, when we were leaving a church one day, she just looked at me and says, like, John, I need you to do me a favor. What do you want, Mom? He goes, teachings of Jesus Christ. Are they wrong? I'm like, no, no. Why? She goes, then why are you arguing about anything? Right? So, and the thought of this was profound for me, because I would literally debate, how could you know this or that, blah, 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 blah. Well, we should just be this, blah, but who cared? But my mother, she hits me with a 1-2 that a woman with a third grade education, she just literally shattered my whole world real quick, because you cannot look at the teachings of Jesus Christ and tell me they're wrong. They're just not. They're not. So I don't care what faith you are. Take these teachings and put them in play, and they're going to work. And that was actually one of the biggest bases of it, because I have a firm belief it isn't really bad people who do the worst things. It's actually good people. Because if you're some psychopath and you run over a kid, when you go home, you're just going to brush your teeth, go about your day, your night, whatever, and you might never do another bad thing again, because it's not going to eat you up. But a good person who has a conscience and cares, same thing. They're going to try to rationalize. Guilt's going to eat them alive. They're going to continue that cycle until eventually every morning they look in the mirror, they recognize a little bit of a different face, because they can't forgive what they did. And that was the biggest thing about that, the teachings of Jesus, that really helped me out, was forgiveness. And it wasn't about forgiveness of other people, it was forgiveness for yourself, to be able to forgive yourselves for what you did in your past. Because your past isn't what defines you, it's what you do that defines you.
This episode of the Recovery Couch is brought to you by JB Davis at South Dayton Toyota. For integrity, service, and unbeatable deals, call JB and his team at 513-267-5225 and tell them the Recovery Couch sent you.
Your past is just your badges, it's your scars, it's your experience. And if you can't forgive yourself for that stuff, you're never going to grow into the person you're supposed to be. Right? And don't get me wrong, I'm still trying to figure all that crap out, because I am a imperfect human, but that's what we're meant to be, right? But the power of forgiveness it's profound,
Dude, you just went on a roll of sound bites that are podcast gold, bro. I'm
Yeah,
speechless.
I mean, I believe it. I believe it. And to anyone listening, I don't subscribe to a specific faith, but one thing I am going to subscribe to, and I'll endorse to the day I die, is the words of Jesus Christ. End of story, full stop. Because I believe if people actually followed the teachings, the world would be a much better place. But practicing it is a lot harder than it sounds, right? Because you got to learn to love yourself and you got to love other people at the same time. And that can be tough. Right?
Yeah, because they're just as imperfect as us.
Yeah. They are. Um, but the self-forgiveness was huge for me. I started taking the trauma that I went through, and I started being able to connect with other people much better from it. Um, it's, and I'm not to say that I'm some omnipotent person when it comes to other people's feelings and stuff, but it realized that it gave me insights so I could understand how people felt. I mean, it's always objective. Everyone's going to feel a different way for things, but I was able to at least close a gap in understanding. You know, everything happens for a reason. Okay. It does. It just does. And I don't, everything in this universe does happen for a reason. All roads lead to Rome, however you want to say it. It's a matter of paying attention and knowing how to leverage that stuff you learned along the way. Because sometimes those real shit situations you're in, they're just there to teach you something. Right. And a lot of times we're just not looking in the right spot. Sometimes that stuff is going to be things that taught you. So eventually, when you're getting old, like me, you can pass that knowledge on to someone. One of the biggest problems I went through when I was a kid is, so I found out my father wasn't my father. And I was like 11 years old. He
The
found out
abuse,
the
the
same
guy
time.
that was abusive.
Yeah. That, that came out one night, randomly, and that screwed the whole house up. It even messed him up. And it caused a huge rift. And my brother and sister referred to me as half brother for the longest time. And Lisa, if you hear this, I'm sorry, but I love you. My brother eventually apologized for that when he was older. And I was like, hey, I get it. I get it. And I did get it because when I was a kid, I was always like, what the hell? What the hell? Why me? Why me? Why me? But then I look back on it and it's like, gee. So my dad finds out that's got to suck. And my brother and sister felt alienated at the same time, so now they're like, what the hell do I do? So, I mean, there's a lot of different perspectives that were happening in that house. But here, fast forward now, what is it? 30 something years later, my son, Theodore, I come into his life when he was 2. The woman I was with, at the time, we split up a couple of years ago. He's 10 now. I'm the only father he's ever known. She didn't understand at the time, but I identified with this little dude. I tried to explain to her, I go, look, but family isn't necessarily blood. I mean, blood's not an option. When you take somebody into your life from your own free will and by choice, that's a much stronger bond. That's my son. He loves me to death. His biological father recently come back into his life over the past couple of months, and that's awesome. I love it. He's changing his life around. He's finally coming in and he's doing the right thing. But where I'm going with this is all that shit I went through, there's now a use for it, right? It's just an insight. But if I
Solid.
sat there, woe is meing the whole time, I wouldn't be able to use it. But all that shit was the source of my addiction.
Everything you went through became the source of your wisdom to pass on down to your little
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. And I try to pass it on to as many people as possible. It's that's why I do music. That's why I write. I try to talk to as many people as I can. Um, Everything and anything. No topics off limits. But the thing I try to teach the most is to be respectful. Just you never know what another person's going through. A lot of times when somebody's being a jerk, it's not you, it's life, right? Just hearing a, hey, man, is that a new shirt? That could change their whole day. Just little things. And there's not enough of that in the world. But that's the kind of stuff that's been helping me stay sober. I wrote a book. It's probably not this type of audience here, but it's a psychological horror thriller. And it's based quite literally off generational trauma.
What's the name of it?
Red in the Dark. It's
RED in the dark.
yep. It's so the book isn't published yet. I've been doing audio podcasting for it. Only recently started, but again, it's graphic. It's but it's literally based off it. So it's based off a guy who grew up in Maine. You'll find out over the series he was heavily abused as a child. Um, he was he's terrified of the dark, and there's two sides of this man. One, he wants to be nice, he wants to be helpful, and the other side of him has become so dark over time and justified all the actions he was doing to protect himself, and it drives him to do truly, truly bad things. And then it follows all these other people and then all these other arcs and very similar stuff. It's very gritty. And he follows a woman named Abby Lakin, who's an addict who's in a loop. She wants to be better. And every single time she tries to get sober, the things in her environment bring her back. So it really follows multiple arcs. That writing, the music, staying distracted, and most importantly, any single time, because believe me, here we are 16, almost 17 years later, I still think, damn, wouldn't that feel good? Like, still do. So once that happens, I got to switch, just get my mind off it for a second. I pick up my guitar or I'll write something. I can't call my mom. She ended up passing. That was 2021 on her birthday. She ended up relapsing. She ended up getting fentanyl laced crack. Yeah, that was rough. That was really rough. I was actually working operations manager for a place called Pineland Farms. I left that whole industry right then. I never went back. My mother, she was the kindest person, and I didn't realize how much I valued her and how much she meant to me until the day she goddamn died. I took my business degree. I don't even use it now. I mean, because when I went back to work, man, I just started chasing money, which is a whole nother addiction. And that's not what I wanted for my life. So I went out to just try to make a change. I started building. Now, again, my primary goal is sharing my story with people, which is why when I saw you available, I wanted to be able to, because I think the most powerful thing, and again, this is, we talk about this all through religion, it's when you're together, you share your stories. It allows for empathy. It allows for oneness, relationability. I don't go to NAs a whole lot. I should probably do that a little more. And I don't do it for me. I do it for other people. But just sharing the stories, I think, is what's most important. So that way, some other guy who's sitting there, or a woman who's not sure what to do, that's like, hey, this is going to suck. It's going to suck more than anything you've ever done in your life. And anytime you think it's just gotten so bad you can't stand it, wait, there's more. It's going to get worse. But it will get better because you have to retrain your brain. You have to retrain your personality. You need to rehome that, right? And that starts with forgiving yourself for all the shit you did. And if you have to start with forgiving all those people that were involved in your life, that led through that trauma, that led to your addiction, start there. Because once you do that, everybody can start to heal. And healing isn't going to be instant. It's going to be long. It's going to be ugly as hell. I'm still going through it, and I will for the rest of my life. But healing is better than remaining what you are.
Talk to me.
Right?
Say it again, John.
Healing is better than remaining what you are. Right? You're left with two choices. Two. You can remain in the same exact cycle you're in, or you can seek redemption or whatever at any cost. And that cost is often going to be complete and utter discomfort. It's going to be changing your entire personality often because you have to get away from the drugs, the alcohol, or whatever it is that's led you there. It's got to lead you down facing all the shit that you brought upon yourself. It doesn't matter what you went through, when you're causing this stuff, you're still following the pattern. You're still inflicting it onto yourself. You got to lace up the boots, accept your responsibility in it. Sure, there's probably a root cause. There always is. But the root cause isn't the reason why the pattern persists. The pattern is always because of us. And once we recognize that, that's when we can start to get better. No, not even a second sooner.
So good, John. So much wisdom, very profound words throughout this entire episode. We're coming to a close here, John. And I usually ask the guest to give some encouraging words to somebody out there in early addiction, but I think you already did that. Just offering them to get to the root of it, forgive the people who have hurt you, and then forgive yourself. And I don't think you could really give any more encouraging words. John, tell them where they can find some of your music at, and then give us an update on when your book's going to get published and when, so people can, the listeners can get out there and support you.
So the book will be published probably January of 2027, because I want to make sure it's all edited and sitting out. You can find my music pretty much anywhere on Spotify, Apple Podcast. I work on a lot of different accounts, but everything I do, it's all based on worlds. Like, so this specific one, the Red and the Dark, is something, it's all on Spotify. That's all rock based. There's another guy, Gorilla in a Suit, which is blues and stuff. But
we'll give them the name to search for on Spotify so they can listen to it and support you.
Check out Red in the Dark. It's the same.
It's Red in the Dark, same as the book.
Yep. So because it's all multiversal stuff. The music supports the book. The book supports the podcast. It's all, if you go check it out, you'll see.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm going to check that out. I encourage all the listeners to go and check that out. Red in the Dark. His name's John Young. He's been a fantastic guest on this episode. I'm super thankful for you, John. Just want to remind everyone out there that you always have a seat right here on the recovery couch. Hey, while you're at it, why don't you go and check out my friends over at Humble Heartbeat. They run a full-service publishing company that will bring your idea to publish. They have a book and an accountability coach, and they meet you where you are. Keisha Warren is my publicist, and she has helped me tremendously throughout our time together. So please, go check out our friends at Humble Heartbeat and tell them the Recovery Couch sent you. Wow, what a testimony. John's story reminds us that change often starts small. A single decision, a moment of honesty, a willingness to try again. For John, it was a guitar in a prison cell that helped him reconnect with who he really was. And if you're listening today and you feel stuck, then hear this part clearly. Your past does not define your future. There is a way forward, even when it feels dark. John's book, Red in the Dark, will be releasing soon, and it carries the same message you heard today. Hope is still possible. So grateful for every one of you listeners. I want to thank you for taking a seat on the recovery couch. And if this episode encouraged you, share it, because somebody needs to hear it. Don't forget, go and check out my book, Step 4, A Journey Through Addiction. It's available at all book retailers, or you can get a copy by visiting www.recoverycouch.com. So thankful for you, and I pray that you have a great day. Thank you.